Tonight, the Japanese land grab in Cairns continues with a $23 million splurge and mixed reaction to the latest overseas tourist figures.
Good evening. Police investigations into the discovery of a man's body on Redden Island near Cairns yesterday has led to a 38-year-old man being charged with murder. Kieran John Thompson entered no plea on the charge when he appeared in Cairns Magistrates Court this morning. He was remanded in custody to appear again in the same court on April the 20th for committal. The name of the deceased has yet to be released. Falling sugarcane returns and the unprecedented urban sprawl of Cairns were the two factors which prompted the $23 million sale of the Cannon family's property to Japanese investors this week. In a press release drafted by solicitors today, Noel Cannon revealed his family had considered subdividing the farm but had found it didn't have the cash reserves needed for such a project. Mr Cannon says the sale to Dakio, a record high for a Queensland cane farm, has been made after long and detailed considerations.
The 243-hectare cane property at White Rock has been owned by the Cannon family since the turn of the century, and it's not without some sense of loss that the family are leaving. However, the sale does not include the historic 112-year-old homestead, which will be retained by the family. Mr Noel Cannon was reluctant to discuss the deal today, saying urban encroachment had made farming in the area almost impossible due to restrictions on herbicide use. After producing sugar for more than 100 years, this land will now be split up for a housing development, which will provide homes for more than 1,000 families. Chief Executive of Dakio, Sir Sidney Schubert, says the land will be subdivided into housing blocks to help satisfy Cairns' increasing demand for housing. He says the Dakio company see Cairns as a mini Gold Coast and predict excellent prospects for long-term development in the area.
State member for Cairns, Keith de Lacy, took a swipe at the Cannon farm sale, calling such Japanese investment in land speculation unhealthy. Mr de Lacy says he's concerned just how long it will take for Dakio to put the land back on the market. The state member says in the past, Japanese companies have held back land, thereby increasing the imbalance between demand and supply. He says Japanese developers can afford to do this because they're using much cheaper money, paying significantly lower interest rates than Australian companies are forced to. A boost for tourism in Cairns and an angry reaction from Townsville. That's a reaction in North Queensland today to latest figures on the flow of international passengers into North Queensland's two international airports. Cairns has recorded Australia's largest increase of passengers over the past 12 months, while Townsville has one of the largest decreases in overseas arrivals.
The figures released by Australia's Customs show a staggering rise in 41% in arrivals at the Cairns International Airport, 5% ahead of Australia's second biggest increase, Brisbane Airport. On the other end of the scale, Hobart and Townsville recorded downturns. The sharp increase for Cairns follows the decision by major overseas airlines to fly into the northern airport in preference to Townsville, a move that's drawn a renewed call from local tourist body Magnetic North for an extension to its airport runway to allow more international flights into the city.
It highlights the inadequate scheduling of international flights into Townsville. Clearly last year was the year of Expo, and Townsville at this stage has no direct international link down south. We have our flights arrive and then continue on, our international connections. So for an international to fly in here, and then they'd have to then go back to Cairns to go down to Brisbane or Sydney.
There's been no growth in Townsville, as you've said. Does this indicate that the overseas airlines are just bypassing Townsville, decided to bypass Townsville altogether?
Well, I mean, with the great growth of international tourism throughout the world, yes. It also highlights our need for greater infrastructure increases, which are being built this year, and operators and greater product. That's clear, and we understand that. But at the same time, without any increased services, then we're not going to get the increased people. And one of the attractions and carrots for that, of course, is our efforts in the extension of the runway.
Federal Environment Minister Graham Richardson has welcomed Justice Gaudron's decision to refer to the full court of the High Court Queensland's challenge to the proclamation of the state's wet tropics. Noting the similarity to the Tasmanian dams case, Senator Richardson said he has no doubt the court will uphold the Commonwealth's actions entirely. He rejects the Queensland government's allegations the Commonwealth is using its external affairs power to undermine the court's jurisdiction, and regrets Queensland Attorney-General Paul Clawson's attempt to cast aspersions on the court's independence. The hunt continues in Cairns today for the youth who raped an 11-year-old girl in the bedroom of her Menunda home in the early hours of Saturday morning. Police believe the rapist stalked the surrounding neighbourhood for intended victims before and after the weekend attack.
Despite a positive response from the public, Cairns police are still no closer to apprehending the rapist they describe as extremely dangerous. A description of the attacker by his 11-year-old rape victim has resulted in police releasing an artist's impression of the youth. He is described as part Aboriginal or Islander, 15 or 16 years old, 175 centimetres tall and of slim build. At the time of the attack, the offender is believed to have been wearing a blue and yellow football jersey, similar to that of the Kangaroos football club, as well as a fine gold chain and coral choker around his neck. Police are asking anyone seeing a person answering the description to contact the Cairns CIB as a matter of urgency on 5/1/2000.
The RAAF says sorting the remains of 19 people killed in a World War II crash in far northern Queensland will be a sensitive and painstaking task. The Dutch Air Force Dakota's C-47 crashed in heavy rainforest near Mossman, just 10 minutes short of the Cairns airbase nearly 45 years ago. RAAF spokesman Wing Commander Rick Johns says the names of those on board will not be released until the families have been contacted. Wing Commander John claims the crash area is likely to be declared an official war grave site. A major salvage operation was mounted today to try and retrieve the 50-tonne crane that crashed into Little Mulgrave River yesterday. The accident happened late yesterday afternoon when the driver of the crane misjudged a narrow wooden bridge, crashing into the shallow stream. As the salvage crew quickly discovered, today's operation was anything but easy.
The accident occurred about 15 kilometres from Gordon Vale on the narrow winding road to Orchard Valley. The crane driver came to grief on a rickety 60-year-old wooden bridge over the Little Mulgrave River. Although one of the biggest mobile cranes in the region was called in, a 70-tonne giant from NQEA, the Walter Wright-owned crane refused to leave her resting place easily. When the power was put on, the weight of the crashed crane lifted the salvage crane off the ground. Some concern was noted by local residents that distillate was spilling from ruptured tanks into the river. With many farmers taking fresh water from the stream, they questioned why the crane's tanks hadn't been siphoned dry after the accident. The salvage operation was enlarged late this afternoon when a second crane and a bulldozer were brought in to assist. With a new bridge obviously needed at the crossing, some locals jokingly suggested covering the crash crane with cement and using it as a new overpass. With the crane valued at almost $500,000, it was not a suggestion that went down well with the owners who were watching the salvage operation closely.
Councillor Dan Patterson is being supported by the Wildlife Preservation Society in his bid for ALP endorsement for the state seat of Cook. The Society's Cape York branch president, Cole Ford, says the conservation vote will be important in the electorate, with several burning environmental issues in the area. He says the state government's Cape York space-based plan and its development at any cost approach to tourism means the peninsula region is under its greatest threat. Wednesday night's news will continue after this break. The Queensland AIDS Council is pressing the state government to make urgent changes to the present blood testing procedures. The council's state president, Bill Rutkin, says the government is obliged to make amendments if it's at all serious about the fight to control the spread of the AIDS virus. Speaking in Cairns today, he said the government had been sympathetic to his group's appeals and he forecast major changes in the first half of this year.
There are some exciting new developments coming up, I hope, and we've been having lengthy discussions with the people in the health department about what's possible. Because of the nature of the epidemic, because there is no cure and it's not likely we'll see a vaccine in the short-term future, the only way we can respond to the epidemic is through change. We are hopeful that the government will introduce some of the more radical changes that people have been talking about. Some of this will be done in conjunction with the Fitzgerald inquiry anyway, but in the near future we may be looking at the decriminalisation of prostitution. The government has already moved in relation to the availability of needles and syringes, and that will be broadened. There will be, of course, concern to ensure that a retrieval system is put in place so that the population of needles in circulation doesn't increase and we don't experience some of the problems that they've had in relation to disposal of them.
Is your group concerned about the amount of time it's taken to institute change?
Yes, there's a sense of frustration there, but fairly early on in the piece, Micah Hearn, when he opened our office, said to us that we had to understand that change takes time. You can't move too far ahead of the whole community. And I think it was very wise in what he said there.
Have we got time as far as the AIDS epidemic is concerned, though?
We're already too late in a lot of cases. But the other side of that is you've got to keep working at it.
National Farmers Federation representative on the federal government's Kangaroo Committee, Bill Bonthrown, says he's been given an assurance there will not be a repeat of last year's 5-month delay in releasing kangaroo quotas. Mr Bonthrown claims federal and state government representatives are still finalising this year's quota figures with a view to releasing them in the near future.
Last year, the quotas were not released until mid-May. The 1.7 million total comprised 70,000 wallaroos, 320,000 reds and the balance grey kangaroos. Mr Bonthrown is hopeful this year's quotas will be increased. Just 3 weeks after the red season officially opened last year, it closed again after shooters had culled 40,000 more reds than legally allowed. Mr Bonthrown doesn't want a repeat of last year's delay and says the quota figures should be made available by the federal government at the start of each year.
We want those quotas to open up on the day that they're supposed to, and that's the 1st of January. And we'd like to see the shooters out when we've got plague kangaroos like we have now. We'd like to see them out now working.
Charleville fauna dealer Claire Capewell says even when the quotas are exhausted, graziers can still obtain Section 25 permits, which allows them to shoot kangaroos but not to use their byproducts for commercial gain. The carcasses are left to rot, a situation Mrs Capewell describes as ludicrous. Mr Bonthrown agrees and says with Australia's current national debt, the kangaroo is fast becoming a wasted resource.
And now we're in a position where we can't handle it any longer, and unfortunately the kangaroo will be the greater sufferer in the end if we don't find a way of dealing with the situation that we've got right now.
Problems with low-grade fuel and a planning error have forced one of the world's largest cruise ship companies to veto Townsville as a port of call this year. Sitmar Cruises captain Luigi Napper says if the company's Fair Princess docked in North Queensland, it wouldn't reach its next port of call on schedule. Sitmar's Fair Princess was due to dock in Townsville once this year on Monday. However, due to a miscalculation which shortened the distance between Townsville and the next port of call, Vanuatu, by 160 kilometres, this plan has been shelved. If the Fair Princess had visited Townsville, it would only reach Vanuatu 1 hour before it was due to depart. Rather than throw the whole schedule out of sync, Sitmar decided it was easier to travel only as far as the Whitsundays instead. With a similar problem experienced in December last year, this is the second time a Sitmar stopover in Townsville has been cancelled of late. While conceding the company is disappointed at changing its plans, Captain Napper says it's no reflection on the desirability of Townsville as a port of call, as the company has received a good response from its passengers. Meanwhile, in other Townsville Port Authority news, Chairman Joe DiFrancisi has announced the authority will participate in this year's Cruise and Ferry Conference in London in an attempt to attract more cruise ships to the city. To be held in May, the World Conference will allow the authority to promote Townsville's excellent berthing facilities and tourist attractions. Shute Harbour is being set up as the state's major tourist port facility, with the Queensland Government launching a multi-million-dollar project in the area. Lands Minister Bill Glasson today called for proposals to completely redevelop the harbour's passenger and cargo handling facilities. He says Shute Harbour is currently bursting at the seams, with facilities being called on to process more than 6,000 people a day during peak periods. Shute Harbour is second only to Sydney's Circular Quay as Australia's busiest passenger harbour. Mr Glasson says developers will be offered a total area of 16.9 hectares for the construction of public harbour facilities and tourist facilities such as a hotel or motel, shops and restaurants. Next up, tonight's sports news from around the north. Tonight in sport, Brian talks to the North's leading rugby league administrator, introduces the Townsville Suns' latest recruit and looks at one of Townsville's best-known part-time cricket teams.
The no-nonsense Queensland Rugby League Northern Division Chairman Ben Wall has served the game in many capacities, and his recent appointment to the six-man Australian Rugby League Board is just recognition to his administrative abilities. Wall is undaunted by the prospect of shaping Australian Rugby League policy, and he's sure he won't be treated as a poor country cousin.
Personally, it's a great achievement for myself and also for the game in the North. I mean, to be the first representative from North Queensland to be elected to the Board of Control of the Australian Rugby League is a great honour for me, and it's a very great plus for rugby league in North Queensland.
So you don't think they're going to treat you as a country bumpkin, just someone to be brushed aside?
Well, they may for the first 10 or 15 minutes of the meeting, but of course after that I think they'll realise that I'm there for a reason. I'm there for the game. This is the main thing. I'm there for the game in North Queensland, and that's what in the game in general in Australia.
North Queensland will definitely have the hat in the ring for touring teams to play in the region, with the world champion Australians high on Wall's list of targets.
Everybody likes to see Great Britain and New Zealand and France, but of course the best thing of all is to see your own national team, isn't it? And that's what it's all about. So that'll be something that I'll be working on.
The Townsville Suns basketball team will be the stage former Australian junior representative player Graham Quebank will use to resurrect his faltering basketball career. Only 22 years of age, Quebank has plenty of talent and hopes to make his mark with the Suns.
I've been a bit out in the wilderness the last couple of years when I was in Adelaide, and I'm just glad that Mark Bray's given me another chance up here in Townsville.
What do you hope to achieve with the Suns?
Well, obviously the Suns being in the National League next year, that's my first goal, is to make that team. I'm on a 2-year contract at the moment, so I'll just run out these 2 years and see what happens after that.
With Mark Bragg looking to concentrate on coaching, Quebank has hopes of staking a claim for the point guard position with the Suns.
Well, I'm still sort of emerging. I've only moved into a guard spot over the last couple of years. All during my junior days with South Australia, I was sort of a forward, but obviously I'm not tall enough to be a forward. So then when I went to the Institute in Canberra, they moved me out into a guard spot, and I'm still developing in that role, and hopefully I'll move into the point guard spot. But I've got a lot of work to do yet, that's for sure.
Tradition will continue at this weekend's Goldfield Ashes in Charters Towers, with Jacko's 11 lining up for the 40th year. Jacko's 11 have won more times than any other team, and Jacko expects another success this year. Although age has slowed Jacko down some, he is happy to reminisce on his 28 years as captain wicketkeeper of the team that carries his name.
I had a bowler there a few years back now. Wally Tallis is well known in the football field. He was a marvellous bowler at his top. One of the best bowlers I've seen at the Charters Towers, and one of the best sportsmen too.
You must have some funny stories about experiences you've had out there at Charters Towers.
Yes, it's a funny town, the Charters Towers. It's a good town. But I've had some good experiences. Naturally, one of the best experiences when I first won the Ashes up there, going back, I forget, it was quite a long while ago now. At the present time, we've won the Ashes more times than anybody else, which is very gratifying.
You've probably been playing longer than anybody else as well.
Well, I have been too. The team that I have now, there's none of them would have been born when I first started to play.
Jacko's only regret is that the Ashes don't get the recognition that they deserve from down south.
And unfortunately, I call them the silver tails from Queen Street in Brisbane. There's never anybody come up here to really have a real good look at some of these good cricketers, or the opportunities for these young cricketers to advance themselves or be coached by senior players.
Coming up, a recap of our major news stories and Christine's weather report.
Good evening, everyone. Scattered to widespread rainfall occurred in eastern coastal districts overnight, with more isolated falls occurring over the southern interior and about the Gulf. 30 millimetres was reported from Tully and 29 millimetres at Iron Range. And in the 6 hours to 3, as the showers continued, Julia Creek recorded 25 millimetres. The satellite picture, which was taken at 1 this afternoon, shows scattered cloud right across the northeast. To our synoptic chart, a large high near Tasmania extends a firm ridge along Queensland's eastern coast, which is directing a fresh to strong southeast airstream along most of Queensland's coastline, resulting in showers. An upper air trough across southern districts caused a few thunderstorms over the central interior, as well as generating a band of cloud to its north. While seasonal showers continued about the Gulf and Peninsula due to a weak monsoon